And so now I would like to introduce, whoops, I lost my place. Oh, our speaker, Reverend Joanne Boruck, and the title of her talk is Great Expectations. Now, I'm expecting a really great talk that I'm going to enjoy. Thank you, Linda. Oh, thank you so much. She's so tall. You don't need this.
No,
I'm
going to use this one. On the bottom, to push it. Hold it till the light goes out. Good job. I expect, Linda, just turn that off. What a week I had exploring expectation. Whew. So, good morning, beautiful. Thank you. We really are each other's mirror. Or, as I used to say in school, it takes one to be one, takes one to see one. I had no idea how relevant that phrase was. I just thought it was like the negative, but it's so positive as well. So thank you so much. And now I just invite you to join me in consciousness by first just closing your eyes. And notice if your eyes are relaxed or are they jittering around. Just allow your eyes to drop into your eye sockets and relax. And poor Pearl, not poor Pearl, she's expecting her mom to take her to Sunday school. And now as your eyes are closed, let's bring our awareness to our jaw, our mouth. There's so much tension in our jaw, our teeth. So just for now, just relax all the muscles in your jaw. And we do that by releasing our tongue and our teeth so that our lips are touching ever so gently. But our teeth are independent and our tongue is floating in the bottom of our mouth. This is the way to open the divine flow of energy from your spine all the way up to your crown. And lastly, just allow your head to move forward ever so slightly, relaxing it, taking the pressure off your spine. And now that we've opened our mind, our consciousness to a greater awareness, begin to breathe. And breathe in your own perfect way, breathing with awareness, intention, and gratitude. As I joyfully state, Creator God is all there is. This Creator is all the power, all the wisdom, all the love, all the strength that I will ever need to know. All I ever need to be, because I am that. I am the substance, the material, the ingredients of the universal consciousness that is everywhere present. And I claim my mission to use these tools, these supplies that are available to me, to create and build a world filled with love, a higher vision for myself and others. I raise my expectations to the knowing that I am health, I am abundant, I am loved and creative. I declare and know what I speak, I believe. And what I believe, I expect. And what I expect, I accept. With loving thanks for the truth that all I ever need to be or know is already within, because I am perfect just the way I am. With great expectation for the growth of this spiritual community and its prosperity and relevance and reverence, I am grateful. And I release my word knowing it is already done. My word is the power into which it is spoken. And together we say, and so it is. Please join me in a quiet moment of reflection and affirmation for all those who need to know this day that they are loved, that they are whole, that they are holy. Thank you. Wow, I just have to really shake myself out after those great songs from Edith. They just really grounded me, and my opening affirmation, and I want to really welcome Linda and Debbie Joy. So good to see you. Don't point me out. So this month, we talked about, our theme they had was from good to great to grand. And we do that by exploring our values. I often talk about that. What are your values? Because if you know what you value, what your goals are, what moves you, what speaks to you, everything else becomes clear. Because you can say, that's not what I value. That's not what my goal is. So we explore that. And when we have values, then we can be authentic. I'm my authentic self. You might not think so because, I have people that say I wear rose-colored glasses. But that's who I am authentically, and I don't make excuses for that. Also, when we know what our values are, we can be inspired to take action. There's no great way to say everything starts here and then it moves through here, but ultimately if it doesn't come out here, it's just stuck. Stuck in your mind, stuck in your heart, but when you share it, it becomes real. It becomes you. It becomes an expectation. Ernest Holmes says it's not a one and done deal. He says expectation is about evolution. And he says the ultimate goal of life does not mean that we shall ever arrive at a spiritual destination where everything's static and inactive. No. That which we work with presents an understanding that our ultimate goal, which will to attain, is just a starting point for a further and deeper evolution. So every time we think we got there, that's just a starting point for another place that we're going to go. So our values are guiding principles that align us with universal intelligence. So I was thinking about those words, good, great, grand, and I think that those are all simultaneous. They're not really an island, because you could be all of those in one day. Like Ernest Holmes, if you move from good to great to grand, it's not a start, it's not an end, you just cycle back. It's a starting point to our evolution. Some days you wake up and you feel good. That's great. But some days you wake up and you feel great. And some days you feel grand. I know people ask me, how are you? And I say, I'm good. I'm going to change that. I'm going to switch it up. Sometimes I'm going to say, I'm great. And sometimes I'm going to say, I'm grand. And I bet you they're going to take a step back and think, what does that mean? So when I was thinking about those words, that what brought me to that topic, great expectations. And I don't know if you've read that book, Great Expectations. Russell did. I had to read it in high school. And I only remember really that the main character's name was Pip. I don't know why I could remember that, but I remember Pip. And I remember that he wanted to attain this certain level of wealth, and he wanted to be well known, and the message, when I looked up, it says, what is the central theme of Great Expectations? Well, I was pretty surprised, because it says, on Cole's notes on Great Expectations, isn't that the best thing ever? It says, I believe there are no coincidences. Remember that who you are is way more important than what you have. He says it's a philosophy. And I thought, that's what we teach in the science of mind. Who you are is louder, speaks louder than what you have. Great expectations. Charles Dickens even wrote, the central theme of Great Expectations is that you are more important than you appear to be. What a great message. I don't know about you, but my teacher never told me that was a great theme when, they ask you to write a book report. Here we were learning this philosophy from school, that you are more than you appear to be. And he goes on to say, loyalty and conscientiousness is more important than social advancement, wealth, and class. So Ernest Holmes tells us that life is a process, it's a constant evolution. Charles Dickens tells us we're more than we appear to be. And I think for us, our goal is just to recognize that we could go from good to great to grand as long as we're authentic and loving. I also found places in the Bible that talks about authenticity and expectation. And it's all about how you interpret it. I don't know if you've read the Bible a few times, but every time I read it, it sounds like something else. And this is from Isaiah chapter 21. And now that I have a spiritual understanding, everything I read is different. So Isaiah says, whether you turn right or left, your ears will hear a voice behind you saying, this is the way, walk it. And it goes on to say that Spirit will give you guidance whether you're going the right way or the wrong way. I've gone the wrong way. Have you ever gone the wrong way? And Isaiah goes on to say, raise your expectations to hear the right way. Raise your belief. Raise your faith. Which is another thing that really struck me about expectation. I think expectation is just a belief. It's a belief that something's going to happen. And I think belief is another word for faith. So I think an expectation is having faith in something. But there's someone else who told me a quote that was along that lines. And it was my grandpa. And he really didn't say good, great, grand. He said, good, better, best. And he used to say to us, good, better, best. Never let it rest until your good is better and your better best. See, Beth knows that. And he would often, he also said so many things that were so important to me now that he said a good haircut and a bad haircut, the only difference is 2 weeks. And he also said, it'll all come out clean in the wash, it always does. And so I think about how many people have been telling us the same thing since we were little, and we just never got it. In the 4 agreements, they talk about always do your best. And in that agreement, that's the first agreement, always do your best. But in that book, in that agreement, it says, your best is different every day. Someday your best is, I'm good. Some days your best is, I'm great. And some days your best is, I'm grand. But nobody can make that choice for us. Nobody can tell us what's right or wrong as long as we're doing our best and focus on great expectations. Great expectations challenges us to change our perception of greatness. And it's an awakening. It's awakening of kindness to do something good in the world. Wow, that sounds so doable, so minuscule. Can't you just do something good in the world? Or, like Edith talks about, what can you do? Do all you can. Doesn't say you have to make a grand gesture. Just has to do all you can. I challenge myself, and I ask myself, am I walking a path of greatness? And what is an expectation, Joanne? What do you expect your walk of greatness to look like? Webster's dictionary says it's a belief that someone will achieve something, or a strong belief that something will happen in the future. A great expectation is a form of belief. And then I add it, a great expectation is a form of faith. I expect to speak my truth today. You expect to come here, hear an inspirational message, maybe have a coffee. Linda expects her kids and grandkids, when they carry their plate from the table and put it right beside the dishwasher, she has an expectation that they can open the dishwasher and put the plate in. I never thought about that. A realistic expectation. That's a realistic expectation. I was in Toronto doing a memorial service with my sister, and she is a Catholic. And so she talks about expectations as opposed to going and doing confession. So she used to talk a lot about, and I've heard that before, that kids would stand in line at school making up stuff because the priest expected that you did something wrong. So she said expectation to her was something very different. It was an expectation was what somebody else expected of her. She really hadn't ever thought about an expectation being something you can do for yourself. And so it really resonated really strongly with me that was the first time she told herself, you can have great expectations for yourself. And other people's expectations of you is none of your business. I have a great expectation that something you hear today will inspire you and move you just to be authentic, to have a deep belief in yourself. And how can we do that? Well, you'll be happy to know affirmative prayer is the answer to do that. You know, I was talking to one of the ministers in one of the other centers. I do some classes with them. And we were talking about how there's so many different venues to achieve this teaching now. You can go on Facebook and find affirmations about prosperity, abundance, health. You can find them everywhere. You can take a class. You can take a workshop. You can take a sound workshop. But all of those are something outside of yourself. Until you have an expectation what you're going to get out of that, I've gone to them all. You know, I never really had an expectation. I just expected to spend my money and learn something new. But I never really narrowed that down. What would be something new to me? And so that really got us talking about what is something that's different about this center? What is something that we call the hook? I know what it is. It's what kept me coming back. It's part of my mission statement. It's to tell everybody that if they do affirmative prayer, we call spiritual mind treatment, their life will change. Because it is the law of attraction. We call it the law of vibration, cause and effect. Whatever you put out there, God just goes and creates it for you, like the way. This is the way, or this is the way. So whatever you say is the way. Affirmative prayer. When I was thinking about all the affirmations we see, I thought, well, those are words, but how do you put your words into action? And that's what we teach. That's what keeps me coming back. And what keeps me coming Sunday after Sunday is to be of some part of something grand. I think good is good. I think great is great. I think what we're teaching, what people learn when they come here, is something grand. And people come and they leave and they come back or they don't. But I know without a shadow of a doubt that something they heard changed something in them. They're never going to be the same. I remember reading one sometime that said, spirituality is like a mountain. And it doesn't matter how high you climb, you're never coming back. You're up that mountain. So you can only go up and you can keep going up. But you can never go back. You can try, but your mind's going to say, oh, you know better than that. What is your expectation? I'm so honored to be a part of this and what Ernest Holmes did. You know what he did that was different than everybody else? He taught us a way. I know the Bible has lots of stories. There's lots of affirmation books. There's Louise Hay. I could go on and on and on. The Science of Mind is the absolute only book out there that'll tell you how. Lots of them will tell you why, when, where, who with, who's responsible. But Ernest Holmes will tell you how. And you know how he tells you? Most of you already know. It's a 5-step program that we do. When I was researching the 5 steps of affirmative prayer, spiritual mind treatment, I realized there's 3 steps, there's 7 steps, there's 10 steps. Actually, his wife only did 1 step. That was all she needed. God is. So the 5 steps are recognition. There's a power for good in the universe. And then unification. And you can use it for good. Because this power for good in the universe, it's everywhere present. It's every grain of sand, every tree, every seed. And if it's limitless, why couldn't power be limitless? Recognition. There's a power for good in the universe. Whether you call it God, that's good. Whether you call it Buddha, Spirit, Divine, Creator, universal intelligence, all love, whatever it is, it's a power for good in the universe greater than you are. That's an expectation. It's a grand expectation knowing there's a power. And then we move into unification. And you can use it. And you know why you can use it? Because it's a part of you. It's a part of who you are. So everything that you say, this power for good in the universe, it could be love, light. There's a power for good in the universe. I ask people, what does God mean to you? It means love, light, consciousness, unification. Juliet calls it creator. Therese calls it divine. It's all that power. So there's a power for good in the universe and you can use it. Wow, isn't that so comforting? But if you don't use it for something, you lose it because it just stops right there. So then we get to the declaration. I declare and know. And today I'm declaring and knowing something that I wrote down. And I'm going to find it. Oh, yeah, I said all that. The greatest gift I ever received in this teaching was the ability to do affirmative prayer. Recognition, unification. Now I'm on declaration. The declaration is I affirm and know I have a great expectation. This is our great expectation today for me, is that this center is serving a divine purpose, and people who are searching find us. And know that we're here every week to collectively raise our own consciousness and embrace who we are, because we're a light in the world. I declare I'm a light in the world. And I believe and know that we're meeting other people's needs on our own with ease and grace. That's the law of nature. That there's seeds, there's grass, there's sand. That's the law of nature. The law of mind is that we can believe and we can expect what we believe we will achieve. Recognition, unification, declaration, and then gratitude. Wow. I often say the two most unused words right now are I'm sorry and thank you. Gratitude is recognizing that you already have it all. It's thank you for this truth that everything I ever need is already within me. Thank you for allowing me to have great expectations, not just good expectations, but grand expectations. So thank you for that. Recognition, unification, declaration, and gratitude. But there's one more that's really important. It's releasing it. It's knowing it's so. It's acceptance. It's a great word for release. It's accepting that your word is spoken, that it's acted on. You've got a great expectation that it's being delivered, multiplied and overflowing. Your cup is overflowing because you spoke the word. So after you say thank you, you can just let that go. I imagine I'm blowing out a candle and the smoke just whiffs up. We don't know where it goes. It just dissipates. Maybe it goes to God. I can let it go. I blow it out and I watch it float up into the ether. That is so great. Recognition, unification, declaration, thanksgiving, and release. Those are the 5 things. That's all you need, and you're not going to learn it anywhere else. You're only going to learn it here. If you take a class, if you come, and if you ask me, I'll print you out some blank pages on how to do affirmative prayer. In the back of the chairs, I used to have affirmative prayer bookmarks. I could do that again. And I could be done, but I got to tell you, there's one more thing. An end note to the great expectations. And it's also the thing that keeps me coming back. It brings me peace, and it helps me be a light in the world. And that's something we don't talk about much. I talked to Linda about it a little bit today, and it was something that my sister brought up when she was saying she didn't know that she could have great expectations. And it was managing expectations. Wow, that's a really tough one. You know, Randy Travis says some of God's greatest gifts are unanswered prayers. That is so true. There's a lot of truth in that. But our philosophy says when we do an affirmation for what we are and what we declare, we should say it, but it doesn't matter because God hears it, or Creator. It has to be for the greatest good of all concerned. So if you're not receiving what you want right now, it's not for your greatest good. You haven't won the lottery yet because you don't need it. It's something that you want, but you don't need it, and it's not for your greatest and highest good. And it doesn't mean it's wrong or it's right. It just means it's not time yet. But continue having great expectations until you realize them. There's a lot of reasons why we don't achieve everything we have great expectations about. And if I knew why, I could be a millionaire. Many relationships find that the greatest challenge of all. Managing expectations. I had a great expectation my marriage would last forever, but I ended up having to manage that expectation. You might have a great expectation that you're going to lose 50 pounds. But then you got to manage that expectation. And you know, when you manage expectations, it greatly improves your disposition in life. It can change relationships. Many relationships have challenges because they can't manage their expectation of another person. And again, I come back to my sister Janet, who said, I always know what's expected of me by other people, and I feel like I never reach it, I never achieve it. But what about a great expectation for myself? I do try to manage my expectations of others to the point where sometimes I'm so lenient, I have to give myself a talking to. Joanne, you should have a higher and better expectation of that. A realistic expectation. But I'll manage it for now. And it makes me peaceful. It makes me loving. It makes me kind. So Anita talks about do all you can. Do what you can to have great expectations in a world that is filled with adversity. Have a great expectation because you are great. I think that's all Creator expects us to do is do our best, have great expectations, do what you can, do affirmative prayer, focus on your authenticity and what it is you're here to do. I know what I intend to do this week is affirmative prayer with great expectations for them to manifest. And as you walk out of here today and go out into the world, or have coffee, you expect to have coffee. Did somebody plug it in? Okay, we can expect to have coffee. Thank you, because Creator always knows what needs to be done. Gord sent me some money, so you guys are going to have Timbits, thanks to Gord. You didn't even expect that. That's even better. When you don't have any expectation and somebody rises above your expectations, that is the greatest thing. Because you align your values, who you are, your authenticity, your values, your truth, your light, line those all up with great expectations. I just want to say thank you for listening to me as I rant about how I've created some great expectations for me in my life, and I'm managing the expectations others have of me in my life, because they don't matter. I'm Reverend Joanne Faith, peace and love, Boruck.
I have to say, I think this is one of the best talks you have given that I've ever heard. I'm serious. And we've known each other for many years.
That is such high praise, because when I first started this philosophy, I was pretty broken. And I wanted to take my power back. And Reverend Tress was teaching this book called The Power of Decision. And when I was done it, she said to me, Joanne, you've got something. I hope you continue in this teaching. She was the first person that ever saw my light. So that is such high praise. Thank you, Reverend Tress. We really are mirrors. She had a great